Miles, welcome to Seattle Network. Hi. Can't
How
hear
are
me?
you?
Hi,
Yes, I
how
can
are
hear you
you?
fine.
Okay,
I'm super
great.
good.
Thanks so much for joining me. This is awesome. You and I met for no good reason. Um,
In the spirit of Tony Hsieh, in the elevator, in passing, totally ludicrous. It was perfect.
Yeah. Welcome to the village, though, as well. I mean, it's great for you to be back home in Seattle, and you're a native here. You're born and raised in Edmonds, and you've been gone and away doing all the things. You were last living in California, and now you're back here. And so just welcome. I'm just so ecstatic because I always want every reason for people to not leave the city. And so for you to come back to the city,
Oh
like
yeah.
that just warms my heart.
No, this is home. All the nephews and nieces and nerds and startup buddies and music buddies, everybody's here. So if I was going to move someplace else, I'd have to get 50, 60 people to do it with me, which is just, logistically complex.
Yeah, sounds like it. So, okay, you have done a lot in your life, obviously.
Sure. Yeah.
I mean, the list is kind of long, but for right now, you're doing a couple of things right now. But just to kind of go off the list, if I can, just from an audio standpoint for people in the future who's listening through, from the audio standpoint.
Sure.
Miles, you are
Yeah.
currently a CTO at SADA, an insight
Yep.
company. And right now, you have been doing a lot.
Yeah.
You, you founded Google Cloud Solutions Architecture Practice and launched hundreds of solutions. You've
True.
built style detection and hummus AI APIs. That's true, right?
Yeah. Which are both April Fool's jokes.
And you've created Cloud Hero and designed Google Cloud's pricing and TCO calculators. Lots of
Yep.
math.
Yep.
You've
Absolutely did it.
you've helped Twitter migrate the world's largest Hadoop cluster to public cloud.
360 petabytes active.
You led Audi's replatform on Kubernetes before it was out of alpha.
I mean, I said some words about Kubernetes with Audi early on, and they ran with it. I don't think lead is maybe a strong framing.
Okay, that's a good thing to note.
Mhm.
Um, and then you did some bank stuff too. You've
Sure.
been just doing
Yeah.
everything.
Yeah.
You went through. I mean, you've been everywhere. You've co-authored the first AWS well-architected framework.
Yeah. It was kind of a
You
checklist, but it got bigger.
Yeah, I mean, like, I when I was looking at it, so I did read through it, by the way, and I was like, I know, you're like, why? And it's really awesome to see the old logo, the old, AWS logo, and you're looking at where it
Yeah.
is today, and it's like, wow, that was a long time ago. Um,
Yeah. Oh, yeah. No, I mean, this cloud thing's been at it coming up on 20 years. It's crazy.
but you're like one of the first solution architects, right, of AWS.
Yeah. There was a team of 5 guys. The 6 of us, we all sat together, and we were like, well, we should call it solutions architecture. I think we had a guy that we knew that was an Oracle engineer that had that title. It sounded awesome to me. I certainly wanted it on my business card. I thought it sounded amazing. So we rolled with it. Now I think there's something like 9,700 of them just at AWS. It's beyond.
It's amazing how things swirl around, huh? And then you invented game day. I mean, there's just so many things. You helped NASA like stream the Curiosity Mars rover landing. You
Yeah.
played a key role in Obama's tech team in 2012. No
Yeah. That's what that
huge.
picture is.
It's so awesome. And like, you've just done a whole bunch of stuff. Anyways, you've done a whole bunch of stuff. And I want you to kind of help me understand a little bit more about your background and how you and we really kind of connected. Because I'm a WPP child and I'm Omnicom raised. And somehow, of all the elevator meetings,
You bump into me.
yeah, I bumped into you. So help me and everyone understand, because I have a lot of folks on my network that's in those networks.
Sure.
And I think it'd be really interesting to hear from your point of view of WPP and YNR and the world that I came from.
Totally. So, I got hired into a tiny company with 6 employees at the time, and then suddenly it was 5 because one of the engineers got arrested for not paying his back child support. It was like not a clean and tidy startup, and they wanted to build a services business. Everybody knows services businesses don't trade at big multiples. So I
Yes.
started proposing products that we ought to go build. Ended up building, all these words make sense now, but in 2005, it was a little silly, a social media data analysis and engagement management SaaS platform. When the only website I'd ever heard of that you charged money for was Salesforce at the time. And that was like right at the beginning of their run. So WPP ended up investing in that product. They wanted us to help brand owners understand social media, and we kind of understood it. And WPP throws a party, a couple of them now every year, called Stream. And in theory, the things they invest in, the CEO is supposed to show up. Well, my CEO at the time was like, that sounds lame. I'm not going to Greece. I don't want to do that kind of thing. Miles, you're perfect for that kind of shit. You go. So I show up and I am straight up wearing his name badge. People are introducing him and I'm introducing as Dan, right? Like, and eventually the guys who are in the due diligence are like, you are so not Dan, you are Miles. I'm like, yep. But Stream has one of those things where you like, there's like participation in games and events and stuff. They give you a website to sign up for. Well, I signed up for everything because it all sounded fun to me. And they're like, we've never had anybody sign up for everything. And I was like, well, okay, but I'm still going to do everything. I'm ready to go. And they're like, you're into this. You're having fun. I'm like, yeah. So I won a bunch of the contests. They did like PowerPoint karaoke and I crushed. And so then I ended up kind of like tattooed on the guest list. And by the time I was, through with that startup, through with working at AWS and over at Google, I mean, WPP, hates Google, loves them, but hates them horribly, right? I mean, like it's multiple billions of dollars a year in ads
Yes.
that get placed. And so the Google sellers that are at these events are like, wait a minute, they like you? They want to, you get to go to the cool party? Like, I want to go to the cool party. So I helped Google out a little bit with WPP too. And eventually they became a Google Cloud customer. I mean, the whole thing is
Okay, so you
one big
understand our
wild mess.
ad culture is a bit wild.
Oh yeah, for sure. For sure.
Okay.
Creative people, not bars. I fit right in.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, so then take me through on the next year. So what year was that around?
2005.
Wow. Yeah. Okay. And then
Yeah.
going through that, yeah, no, I
I
mean
mean,
during that
it's
time.
a social media startup, and Facebook and Twitter haven't been founded yet. So like, maybe I'm dumb. Maybe I'm just like broken, right? Like that's just way too early. Like nobody had any idea what we were talking about. It was really silly.
And so this is awesome because you being now a three-time startup founder as well. So you're just like doing all these things. It's like you're never
Sure.
bored, clearly.
Yeah.
Um, so
No, sleep is for Republicans.
so what was the lesson you learned from the first startup that you brought into your second startup?
Sure. So the very first startup, back when you could get domain names and they just gave them to you if you said that was
Uh-huh.
what the name of your company was.
Yeah.
Smartney, also smart. Here's another smart story. Didn't get IT.com. My company was called In Touch Technical, so I got it all spelled all the way out. intouchtechnical.com. It's like the longest domain in the history of time. I'm like ludicrous at typing this thing out. But that startup, what was tough with In Touch Technical was it was a services business. We weren't building products. And it was just obvious to me I could not figure out like training
Mm.
gazillions of people and scaling out the personal approach. Like that was just clearly not going to be what I was reading about as startups. So the second one got co-founded with an incredible guy, but he stopped taking his medication, and then that startup closed. So I certainly recommend that everybody have a sort of reasonably open-minded view about mental health because I think all of us are a little bit nuts, but at the
Yeah.
same time, choose co-founders wisely. So so that was an easy lesson. But for Visible was actually really had a lot of lessons. Also, certainly be interested in who the founders
Wait,
are.
wait, wait, wait. Hold on, Miles. Hold on.
You're dying. I'm talking. You're just over there falling apart. I love it.
No, but sorry, I didn't mean to laugh on the mental health part because
I mean, if you can't laugh at it, what can you laugh at, right? I mean, like,
okay, yes, exactly. But with the whole co-founder thing, it is really hard.
yeah,
When I talk about the whole founder thing, bobber, you're finding a co-founder, it's really hard. It's basically marriage, if not more,
sure.
without like sleeping with each other kind of part of it. You
Right.
have to
You have
really be
far
problem
fewer of
solving.
the upside, or at least the upside is radically more delayed, and all of the pain, all the stress, all the
Yeah.
co-violence.
Yeah.
Yeah,
There's a lot of issues, there's a lot of problem solving, there's a lot of complications, things thrown under the rug. Okay, how to talk
sure,
about this, all the different
sure.
things. But to your point of like, that second startup that you're talking about, that's a great lesson.
Oh yeah. No, it teaches it to you right now. We had built this thing. I will admit, it was the ugliest, most ridiculously over-designed, hyper colorful user interface of all time. It looked like something out of a Star Trek episode. It was such BS. I should never be allowed around front-end design ever. And we were doing a thing to interact with insurance companies. And this guy, he had he had a relationship with somebody. I think it was State Farm or Allstate or somebody like that.
Okay.
And basically he bailed out, and then it was like we had a happy customer and we had a like useful POC, and they seemed to want to follow up, but I just did not have their phone number. Like there was just no way to find it. And at the time, these
Wait, like a
insurance
lack
companies have
of
like 1 million
CRM?
employees, right? Like there's just I'm trying to find Dave at Allstate, I think, and it was just like best of luck, bud. There's no way for you to find that person. There's no LinkedIn yet, right? Enjoy, right?
Wait,
And
wait,
so it
wait,
was
wait, wait,
just
wait, wait,
off
wait, wait,
gone.
wait, 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 wait. So at that time, hold on. So you had one other co-founder. This was a two
Yeah, two-man
person
ship.
situation. Okay. And then were you the CTO and then that person was the CEO or
Yeah,
more or less?
yeah.
So you didn't have the business context, you didn't have the CRM, basically. You didn't have
Oh,
access to it to do
CRM like sort of existed as a module in Oracle at
I
the
mean in the
time, right? I mean,
concept
like,
of you didn't have the same
no,
context as
hell
your
no. No, and we didn't have a domain name yet for the thing. We didn't have shared email. There was no like central repo for any of it, right? So it's just what was in his phone. And he had the contact and I sure didn't. And then he was gone and I was like, ooh, bummer.
can't find Dave.
Dave's gone.
Okay. So the lesson of this story is if you're going to be co-founding a company, you might want to share who your prospects are and those contact details if someone just is off sick, right? Or gone.
Sure, sure. Right. I mean, uh, I mean, there was every conceivable in Visible. We had I thought, frankly, the best IT guy we had had in a long time. He was
Well, that's saying a
responsible.
lot.
Oh, he was, I mean, and like at a shop that's doing, by then we were actually doing software development and you're really building a product and there's like engineers there doing stuff, but you still need an IT guy, right? Somebody's got to plug all this stuff in. And
Yes.
this guy was great. He, super responsible, showed up on time. He was awesome. We closed a deal with Wells Fargo. We built this big social media analysis about what was going on with Wells Fargo.
Okay.
The week after that, the IT guy robbed a Wells Fargo at gunpoint.
Oh my God. I'm
Like
so
I had the,
sorry.
I'm absolutely serious. I had the account lead at the customer call and say, we were going to pay our bill. You don't have to rob the bank. I mean, it could not get more awkward. It was awesome.
Okay.
C is going to go into cataplectic fits at this point.
No,
Just don't die on this
this
live thing.
is
I don't want to be like, I don't
you
want that to be the next story I tell at the next podcast because that shit's,
hey, you
I
got
was
something
talking.
talking about.
Yeah, she had a coronary. This shit's fucking ridiculous. Yeah.
No, but thank you because this is real.
Oh,
Like this is the thing.
yeah.
It's like when you're in a startup scenario, just in business in general, you're part of
Sure.
leadership. Anything can happen, right? Really
Right.
anything. And you've been able to go through some stuff. that nothing maybe
Yes.
surprises you anymore.
No. Uh, so like I remember this guy's absolutely unbelievable. His name is Luke Stone. He's one of the kind of originators of the SRE practice at Google. And I remember during the Pokemon Go launch, it's like the biggest scaling story in the history of games. They told us the worst case scenario. They were 53 times bigger than that on launch day. They were using more computers than Gmail briefly, right? It's an unbelievable scaling story from zero to hero. And Luke was zen-like and sedate through the process. Just like, they're using a lot of computers. We should probably find them some more. And they've run out the core count max for Kubernetes at the time. We should probably flip them onto the next version of Kubernetes. Weird. They're browning out the Maps API globally. We should talk to Esri from that team. Like this, when you have gone through hairy stuff a lot, crises aren't.
You can be calm and collected.
Yeah.
It's just it's kind of like when the pager series, right? It's kind of like the pager era of when, you get paged all the time and that's kind of the thing. And then you have to immediately label it if it's a high priority or not, if it's something you have to address immediately or not, but at a very higher scale when doing business, right?
Yeah,
And so it's a
triage is a thing, and figuring out priorities is a thing. But another part of it is like, panicking and emergency behavior. They just don't make anything go faster. Like it's just not useful, right?
yeah.
If especially if you're running out of time, you got to do only useful stuff.
So this is where I think being a technical founder and from your perspective is really, I think, enlightening
Huh.
because I think that's the skill, if anything, the soft skill or the EQ part of it as well, to be able to regulate emotions, to be able to go through the hard things in leadership, because that's exactly what you're talking about. So for engineers, because you've worked with a ton of engineers and
Yep.
managed them and all that kind of stuff, and hired and yada yada. But for a lot of engineers who are trying to get into the whole startup scene or going up the ladder as well into a more leadership executive position, like that's something that they can really work on, right? That's something that they can work on right now if they're working at AWS or if they're working at Google or whatever, all the places, right?
Yep.
Because a lot of the engineers here, as you know, here in Seattle, a lot of them are very interested in getting into the startup scene. And I feel like
Sure.
that is the number one skill that no matter where you are right now, that's something that you can be harnessing right now and refining and iterating to master that for your own situation of like whatever job situation that you're in or whatever, that's something is you can master that. I feel like you can master anything for any situation that comes through.
Yeah, I think a lot of engineers watch the Star Trek episode where they talk about the Kobayashi Maru, the unwinnable scenario. How do you deal with the sort of emotional pain of this crisis? And they empathize with Kirk. They're like, yeah, I'd work around that, and I would make it so I didn't have that unwinnable scenario. Haha, I'm a hacker. I'm badass. And the reality is, like, most business decisions are uncomfortable compromises. Do I want to spend all day, every day selling? Yeah. I mean, sometimes those are really fun days and I enjoy it a lot, but that means I don't build anything. It means I don't plan any for the future. If I don't sell at all during a given day or a week or a month, it turns out like I'm finding a different gig and there's no revenue coming in the door. If I stay around and build the perfect, ideal, glorious API derived from first principles and heavenly insight, and it takes me 900,000 years to build. Yep. It turns out I'm out of business and the runway's gone and you don't get to have any fun today. So, I think crisis is an environment in which many people are asked to make a large number of compromises and to make the right choices around compromises rapidly. And
Yeah.
and startups are that same thing. So folks that have that crisis exposure are maybe they don't think about it on those terms. They might just be like, well, I did what I needed to do to not have the fire start or to prevent a bad outcome. But it's an experience that cross applies. I think very often I find people that have never really dealt with crisis, but have dealt with incredibly high tension, sort of startup environments, when put into crisis scenarios, do just fine, right? Because they are already practicing the right capabilities.
Yeah, advertising, chaos every day.
Sure. Yeah, high mayhem. Yeah,
Okay,
walking entropy.
so help me understand then going through into okay, so now we go through the second startup. You find out that what not to do with
Sure.
a co-founder. You
Yep.
have learned what to do with a co-founder, and then what kind of co-founder you best work with. So this third startup that you're currently in on and doing, which is very exciting.
Yeah.
You are now doing it with, I think, three other co-founders. So now you've really like
Yeah.
you've secured the situation of
Yeah, yeah. One of them gets hit by a bus, the other two will do it. The problem is it's really a four-legged stool. Like, I think if we lose any one of the skill sets, it's not like we're all gonna fill in and make it work. Like, turns out I don't market as well as Olive does. I would do a shit terrible job of thinking through UI design, as we previously discussed
we
in
now know.
comparison to Nigel.
Yeah.
And I don't understand the heartbeat of musicians anywhere near the same way as Josh. So it's certainly
Oh.
it's a thing of beauty.
Oh, that's really beautiful. So
Mhm.
going into the AWS, I'm going to go back to
Sure.
AWS side of things because I think
Do it.
contextually, it's
Mm.
really important to understand where you're coming from before we go into all like the today stuff and all that
Sure.
kind of stuff. Because I think it's really interesting, I think, for you to have been on this startup rocket launcher thing continuously for like 20 years, right? Like it's been a long time. And so it's normal for you. It's normal for you to go through chaos. It's normal for you to go through scaling really, really, immediate. And it's really normal for you to go through a lot of people. And as you know, people are awesome. And they are.
That's rad. I agree with you. People are great. Humans are wonderful. Hi, humans.
You understand change management. You understand stakeholder management. You understand it's a different playground with different people, and dynamics can change and all that kind of stuff. But specifically, I would love for you to tell the story about what your relationship is with AWS and how that really set you up for success in your relationship in starting all the things, you know, at Google.
Sure. So, you know, working at the social startup, closed this big government deal. The government deal wasn't palatable to our board, which in hindsight kind of makes some sense. But in the disconnect with them, I had made friends with folks from AWS. And and as I talked through my experience at the startup, where the other problem we had was data. Like, we were gobbling up at the time we had a plain text copy of everything that had a comment in the internet, right? So I wanted all of social media. That seemed the reasonable thing to do. Google had the whole damn internet, so I should at least be able to handle just a little slice of it. But I don't have, ERS, and I don't have Ben Trainer and these like heavies building operations. It's just me trying to figure this thing out. And so we tried and broke every database system that there is to try and hold and search this much information. Right now, Doug Cutting ran into the same problem at Yahoo. He's watching Google able to do this. They did it because they built a thing internally called MapReduce. And Doug was like, that's a great white paper. I'm going to write me that as open source code. And he wrote Hadoop. And so we went to a conference and they talked about it as Hadoop, because I think the guy who was working on it just learned about it by reading on the internet, and he didn't know how to say it the right way. And so I've been calling it Hadoop for 3 months as we deploy this thing inside SADA, and it absolutely saves the business. Like,
Oh.
allows us to search index, what at the time was an incredible 4 terabytes of plain text of social media, to be able to vend it through our user interface. And so I'm talking through the experience of fighting through, screwing up a Postgres setup and screwing up SQL Server and making horrible choices with MySQL and more MySQL. No, oh, let's put rocks on top, all this other silly stuff. The buddies of mine that were getting started in AWS were like, look, you've done what 6 or 7 startups have normally done. They usually kind of pick one and just sort of stick with it. And either they run that and it works great and they succeed, or it doesn't and they die. You didn't die. You just tried all of them. And I was like, well, yeah, we didn't want to die. So they're like, you'd be great if you wanted to talk to other startuppers, helping them think through the same kind of thing. And we landed on this method around solutions architecture to, one, establish technical credibility. I wanted to be somebody that customers could see as doing the kinds of things that they were trying to do.
Mm-hmm.
But then to be able to speak from exposure to hundreds of, eventually thousands, tens of thousands of customers about what's actually the right way to do it. And, if you've got everybody trying this stuff, what actually works? So, and AWS at the time was a really exotic compute environment, right? Like totally flat network, no persistent disk of any kind. You have like totally ephemeral disk. They hadn't built EBS by the time I started. So we had a really great internal dialogue, not just like looking through the exposures of customers, but running our own experiments to try to figure out what actually worked. And
Mm-hmm.
and starting to publish that information and help people better understand it really unlocked sales, right? If you couldn't tell people how to use this stuff productively, they weren't going to buy it. And because it was different enough from all the other ways of sort of getting at computers. So that became really fun. I had a great time with it. And one of the customers that I helped out, stayed up late and got up early for, was the Obama campaign in 2012. When I got there and was on site doing work with them, there was an older guy that was walking around, and I just didn't recognize him. He wanted to know why the whole infrastructure for the Obama team wasn't running on App Engine. And App Engine's a Google product. And I was like, well, if memory serves what I said, App Engine is a Tinker toy. And he was like, what? And I said, well, look, like it doesn't run any existing commercial or open source software. You have to write software from scratch to run on App Engine. And 90% of the stuff we built the Obama campaign out of is borrowed, is open source software that we're gluing together to make this work. He was like, really? It doesn't work in App Engine? I was like, yep, that's right. It doesn't. Let's go try one. And spun up a new account and tried it up and showed him that you couldn't make any of that stuff go. It turns out that's Eric Schmidt. He's the chairman and founder, or not founder, but chairman and CEO for Google for quite some time. And he said after we won the election, probably would have a different conversation with him, I suspect, if we had not won the election. And he said, you should come help me do the same thing at Google. And I was like, well, I don't know. AWS seems pretty great and they're really nice. And he's like, no, you should come do this with me at Google. And I said, oh, you're right. I should. Let's do
So you
that.
got poached.
Yeah, totally. That's fantastic.
It is a good feeling to get poached.
Yeah. Yeah. I liked it. It was, I had started to look around before that, and I had an offer from a really cool company. These guys, Smartronix, they were out of DC, and I was excited about taking a gig like that, helping
Mm.
build a systems integrator. I ended up doing that just 5 years later. So, did the run with Google, had a great time there, built a whole bunch of crazy stuff for a whole bunch of crazy customers, and then met the leadership at SADA and was like, oh, I remember when I was thinking about this, where I would get into a direct relationship with customers, get paid to go do all this implementation instead of doing it as kind of proselytization and market building. And it's been really fun doing it with SADA
Wait,
there.
hold on. We missed the whole gap here. So you've been leading Google. You were leading Google for like,
I mean, that's a bold statement. Like, I managed a team by the end of 82 people at Google that were the top point of technical escalation globally for implementations on Google Cloud. How about that?
so App Engine to Google Cloud. Help me
Yeah.
understand the story between that.
Oh, App Engine to GCP. Yeah.
Yeah.
So App Engine was an original attempt by Google to build a platform that everyone could use. And I think the core mistake was their expectation that any company that was even remotely interesting would be building the vast majority of the software that it used, because Google built the vast majority of the software that it used. Well, it turns out no fucking companies are like Google. None. Zero. No other companies. It is an alien that has crash landed here, and it just doesn't work the same as any place else. So they were just wrong. And eventually they built Google's what's called Compute Engine, or GCE, And that's works very similarly to AWS EC2. It has some technical advantages because it's built on
Wait,
KVM
and
instead of Xen and blah blah blah.
where have you been along this journey though? Like what is your
Yeah, when I joined, there was a 6'5" gangly weirdo on my interview panel. He had red leopard print pleather pants and a Britney Spears tank top. And he was the product manager for GCE. His name's Tommy Kershaw. And I came in and he goes, "Are you interviewing for the like cloud app engine job?" I'm like, "No, I'm interviewing for the job where we're going to run GCE and like go compete with EC2." And he's like, "Oh, yay, you get it." And I was like, "Yep, let's talk shop, bud." And we got into it together, had a great time. I walked him through what solutioning meant and why we needed to build a function like that and how you'd help with customers and the rest is history. We had a great time.
Oh my god.
Yeah. Great. Man,
So
always like there are exotic fashion shops that shop at Tommy Kershaw. Like that guy is just he wears the weirdest harebrained stuff. He's awesome.
that's awesome. Okay, so with that and then going into SADA, right? Because okay,
Yeah.
now you've this is awesome and it's like amazing to understand how much you were kind of you were at the beginning for a lot of this stuff. So what did
Yeah.
you learn from after you made something that's basically, I guess, competitive in a way? Um of a sort, I guess. So you have
Yeah.
AWS under your belt, then you have
Yeah. Like
GCP.
when I started with AWS, revenue was like 60-ish million bucks. And we
Mhm.
grew that a thousandfold or 100-fold by the time that I had left, right? Got way bigger. 60 million to like 8 billion. Uh, and then when I started with GCP, it was at 60 million again. And I was like, "Oh, I remember this part. I can do this video game again." So we got it to 8 billion. Now it's at 30 something billion. AWS is at 130 something billion. So if I was at AWS when it was 8 billion and GCP was at 60 million, that means we went from 1/100th their size to 1/4 their size in 5 years. That's pretty good. Like in a competitive market when Microsoft is also there doing absurdly silly things, that's a heck of a lot of fun.
I was going to ask. I was like, I gotta ask the elephant in the room. What is your relationship with Microsoft, with
Hey, that's weird. Elephant,
Azure?
slow moving, endangered, full of strange pointy objects.
You sound like a CTO because you're a CTO. So
That's
okay, so I asked that because when you're talking about the previous startup about when the customers being insurance, in the insurance industry, a lot of them does use Microsoft because they're a Microsoft house with the
sure.
ecosystem and stuff like that. So this goes into your role today in SADA, where you help and engage with a lot of enterprise level customers to help them with, creating these solutions and using mainly Google Cloud. Is that right? Can you talk a little bit
Yep.
more about what you do?
Sure. So,
Because you
um,
do a lot of things, and it's
I
just
do a lot of things.
a lot.
Yeah. It's not that complicated. I mean, Google's only got 180,000 some odd SKUs. Like, it's not, there's
Yeah,
50
it's just
different
like
certifications
Costco.
or something like that.
Not a lot of
Yeah.
SKUs at all. Mhm.
No, easy peasy. So, SADA is Google Cloud's largest and most successful resale and implementation partner. It's not close. We won their partner of the year 7 years in a row. We're going next here in about a month. I'm sure it will be eight beat by then. Uh, our teams across containerization, app development, security work, AI implementations, data platforming, all the work through Workspace and helping do change management for employee skills, that whole gamut of capabilities, basically the stuff that Google sells, we try to help you be successful with. And by and large, that means enterprise transformation. So diving in to help people build a better business around these capabilities. We've been doing that now for a long time. We have at any given time, there's 200 projects like that going simultaneously. You got hundreds of engineers out fixing people's stuff.
Awesome. And so then what is your relation? So it's interesting where you're coming from on each side of the table almost. So you've been a startup founder, you currently are a startup founder. You understand the vendor relationship between on the enterprise level. So you can understand both sides of the coin. You understand from a
Sure.
product standpoint, maybe not so much on the UI standpoint, but you trust people with that.
That's fair. Okay. Don't cut me loose in Figma. I'm gonna make dumb looking stuff.
um, so what is your relationship with startups in a way of like uh at SADA, for example? Starting there.
Sure. So every startup that I talk to has aspirations to become a big enterprise, right? Like that's where you're trying to go, and so they want to set things up right in the first way. They don't want to redo stuff. You can't afford it, right? You're in the middle of trying to figure this stuff out. We have architects and engineers that are on the phone and on video chats like this one, although we usually use Google Meet to be able to have a conversation with customers and help them think through how this stuff works. We have customers that started at, I think the folks at MadHive spent $700 or something the first month on Google Cloud. And, yeah, it now consume hundreds of millions of dollars worth of this infrastructure as a big scaled successful startup. So it's in our best interest to have a good relationship with the startup community. I do direct advising. I'm happy to help startups as they think through, how to use cloud products the most efficient way, how to avoid some of the cost pitfalls associated with this stuff, how to set yourself up, especially for enterprise software. Many of the biggest customers eventually will make you deploy either in their cloud environment or in their private environment. So,
Hmm.
how do you keep the capabilities of cloud when you have all of that distribution requirement? I think that's one of the harder things to do in SaaS today. And frankly, like the explosion around AI is consuming a huge amount of focus. So we just have a whole
Explosion.
shitload of engineers, trying to help people build all these little executions as they automate their businesses.
Okay. So then do you guys also, so with the the reseller side of things, how does that usually work out? Like is it different are there different like types of relationships, I guess, would be on the table kind of thing with startups? Like cuz you guys are huge. So it's like what are the
Thanks.
how would a startup be working together with you besides that one that you just explained?
Sure. To be super direct, Google's resale programs, we we use them to be able to benefit customers. Sometimes they fit, sometimes they don't. They're just one of the tools in the tool bag to be able to solve problems. And there are some really great programs direct with Google Cloud for startups that we have navigated a zillion times. So you may not know how many thousands of dollars of free Google Cloud consumption you can get just for filling out a couple of the right forms that are hidden in the right nooks and crannies. Also happy to help get you connected to engineers internally at Google that are working these same kind of problems that are connected with startups. There are good programs there for that stuff. SADA tends to focus when you've got is a great partner to startups when you think you have a piece of work that isn't going to be persistent in your workflow. I just got to get this integration done with this third party system. I don't have anybody that knows anything about that thing. I'm hosed. This is a blocker in our overall development, but I'm not going to have to do it 500 times. I'm just going to do it this one time and it sucks. So SADA can bring a professional services
Mm,
team to execute against that kind of thing. Um, we can be a little big for the tiniest startup, right? If it's one guy, right, you probably just got to roll your sleeves up and figure out how to do that stuff. But as you get a little bigger and you've got momentum going, it's a good fit for us to collaborate. And what we hope to do is to publish as much information about what we're doing. We got a good engineering blog and our own podcast and a bunch of stuff where we're talking through what we do with customers. And hopefully that helps everybody up their game.
cool. Okay, so then what you do then on the leadership side of things, on the business side of things, what are you what's been working out for you and what are you happy with and
Sure.
what are you doing in the business side of it? Because what's interesting about you, Miles, is not only have you done just a bunch of stuff in life, but just one or two things. But yeah, but I mean, like you understand the business side of things, which a lot of that is kind of a black hole for a lot of people,
Sure.
especially as, going through from an engineer, background, or if they were doing focusing on one area, even if they were in thing, for example. And so you have a very interesting set of experiences that has allowed you to be business savvy. So what are you doing in the business decision side of it that um is normal for you, and like what your current challenges of like, man, I'm still working on this area? Because that's really, to me, the highest level of business leadership is the EQ side of it. It's dealing with people, it's dealing with how to make incredible decisions with the 10% of information that you got, because you have to trust the people that's around you, and that, they are responsible and accountable, and they are the ones who consulted and inform other people around them, kind of thing. And being at that leadership standpoint that allows you to delegate and hire and be able to trust, I guess, the team that's around you to be able to make the decisions appropriately. And if you fall flat on that decision, you're able to bounce back and make another decision.
Hmm. Yeah. uh, I'm I think of seniority in businesses. Most employers want to hear that you're actually doing two things: that you are a manager, which means problem remover, and you're a leader, which means opportunity creator. Then I would say, and for employees of mine that are watching, that I'm a terrible manager. I'm about as bad of one of those as has been manufactured. I sort of chuck myself in the ring for that kind of thing, but I'm not very good at that. What I am good at is leading and pointing us in the right direction. And very often, you're right, that depends on having a good sense of when and how to delegate, and how to set people up for challenges that pull them to the next level. So we built an absolutely terrible prototype. It took us, no time. It was awesome to be able to look at the sales enablement information at SADA, right? Let's see if I can help our sellers better understand the product. And while we had a whole bazillion things we wanted to fix with it, it sure demoed pretty good. And so I got asked, like, hey, what is SADA doing that's innovative around AI? And I was like, well, sure. And so I played show and tell with this thing that we had built in a couple of weeks. And the executive leadership team at the company that had just bought us, they love it. They think it's totally amazing. I'm like, oof, okay. So we stayed up late. We got up early, and I asked my team to march through the process of rebuilding that application to not just cover SADA's scope, but all of Insight, the company that purchased us, which is their infrastructure line and devices and Microsoft products, AWS products. Do it on the whole ecosystem of stuff that Insight can present. And they did a great job, right? I didn't stay up late coding the thing. I didn't go through and cajole data owners into giving us access. They did all of that legwork. Chris, Simon, Rick, the Boomy, Zane, the whole India team, Ash did a great job. That's a thing where, like, I enjoy software development. I'm slow, but I like it. And I enjoy, diving in and fighting with people for stuff. But that whole team now knows for sure that they can go build one of those. And they don't have to
Oh.
ask me if it's okay. They know they can. So now if I bring them four more, they go, oh, okay, I got a good sense of what that's going to look like. I can take that on more confidently. I can work that over a shorter time period. So, there's some risk there, right? If we built a thing and it didn't work right, it's probably egg on my face, right? Like, I don't want to make something that doesn't work and hand it to the CEO of the company that just bought us. That would be bad. But I was really confident, and I think my confidence was well placed because our team is awesome. There's plenty of places where we've also made mistakes. Like just today, we're all supposed to go to Google's Next, and one of the guys that works on my team, we just, like, I guess he missed the email and wasn't signed up. We had to scramble and make sure he gets a ticket and, like, is able to show up at the thing. Like, I don't want to be the guy that, like, screws up and has one of his employees not be able to show up at the big event for the year.
Yeah, that's
So
in
it's stuff
April,
like that
right?
where, yeah, that's just no
Mm.
fun. So we all have to work together to make sure that we're, that's why that kind of, who's your co-founder, that the collaboration you have with your employees, with your stakeholders, with your vendors, with your partners, with your advisory board, with your investors. Those relationships are, they have to be complementary, and you have to understand who each other is. Otherwise, you're going to end up in a pickle where somebody thought somebody was going to be on that part of the problem and nobody is. So important that you've got, a good handle on, who's on your team and what position they play.
I feel like even more so the importance of that because of what happened to your second startup.
Oh,
It's
sure.
like
Totally.
who's doing what and transparency on that, right? And it feels like it's interesting how burns actually becomes your biggest strengths.
Sure. Yeah, I think people, end up in a spot where uh they're not they don't see the sort of rose that sits in the middle of the poop, right? I mean, like there's always problems. There's always stuff that's going to break. People, like stuff fails, right? Like but it's not what's going on, it's how you deal with what's going on.
And does SADA also at this point, so does SADA also acquire um like tools and like shelf them basically? So for
Acquire
example,
tools and then shelve them?
yeah, so like there's a company I know that basically will buy out tools and then the CTO will basically shelf like they'll go through it and then basically collectively put it into their um huge like
Toolkit.
yeah, I guess. Yeah. And yeah, so they'll take the good parts of it basically and then they'll shelve the rest. And then from that point onwards, that's how that they've been able to grow like bigger, bigger, bigger. They're a huge company. Huge. Um and so a lot of what SADA does kind of reminds me of that ish of like, but they have more of an M&A kind of play.
Right.
And then so that's kind of where my head was going with that of like, oh, okay, that's interesting because you guys do a lot of product champion work and then there's that flywheel that's there and then in the respect of okay, if this is useful to your guys' customer, then that's something that you guys would recommend in that respect, which is awesome because that helps with the whole entire ecosystem of the vendors, the suppliers, making sure that to have, because enterprise solutions, they're so complex and unique and rare and all those kind of things, right? Everyone
For
has
sure.
their own thingamabobber, and you need a unique, architected solution for that. And so, um, that's kind of where my head was going of that because I don't know too much about specifically in Sada's world, but
Sure.
I was like, wow, that's kind of like that part, that business model seems like that would be extremely lucrative to then grow from the inside out.
Yeah, I mean, I'll give an example. You know, earlier when we were independent, we looked at, you know, how would we get to real 24/7 coverage for customers, right? Like, how can I make sure that I'm really answering the phone and not just like, hi, let me take a message. Like, I want to be able to dig in and help people through operational problems and do the rest of this.
Yeah.
Time, I don't want to curse an employee to the night shift that's a horrible model. It's just not good for humans, right?
No.
So really works well to outsource and do that work together with teams that are overseas. So we worked together with a team in India. They were great. Quality was super super high. I felt like they took our training on really well, and eventually we kind of got a little closer and we got a little closer and we said, okay, look, like what percentage of revenue are we? Right? Like we
Mm.
knew we were a big customer. We didn't know. And they're like, you're 80%. And we said, well, this is done. Just come here. And made that acquisition. Bijou and his team came over. They've been spectacular. They're part of the business. I think that's a great way to grow is to think about the thing that you're missing and build a partnership with a business that thinks that's the most important thing that they do. Now that we're owned by Insight, Insight is the one doing the rolling up, not us, but I collaborate on that. I think there's all sorts of tools that we need to be able to accelerate things. But I think a lot of people in my position right now have fairly high trepidation around M&A, especially around technology tools, because the change rate is so high, right? Like
Well,
stuff
let's
that,
talk about this part because this
yeah,
is where
change
it
rate's
gets
crazy,
well.
crazy high.
Also, like it's okay, like from an enterprise client, like as like a Fortune 500 company, right? You have all these
Huh?
different things in place. And then one other, you add another vendor, and the reason why the sales cycle could be long or it could be very short because they know exactly what they're looking for and exactly what they need that checks off all the um, check boxes. It can be very complicated, but I think having that business case up front to be able to say, this is how me as a vendor plays really well with your other vendors, your vendor stack basically, and how we were able to check off with all the enterprise security. One, we're using this and this and this and that, like going through procurement, whether it is from a business side of things to be like, oh, okay, can we even do business with you? One, two, can we play the same telephone game and can we all play fair, and having all the vendors being able to play nice with each other as well, and then having the right people in place for that to be orchestrated pretty well and facilitated. And then three, it's like uh, uh, is one tool doing something that the other tool isn't, or they have similar benefits kind of thing, and it becomes a competition. So going into the enterprise sales cycle, because you have a lot of experience on this, especially from a buyer standpoint, I would
Sure.
love to hear like what your kind of recommendation would be, or if you have some stories or examples of what was really like good, better, best.
Sure. Um, I mean, like SADA at this point consumes something like 300 distinct pieces of SaaS software to enable the dozens and dozens of different job functions and roles, the information we all need to collate. Some of them are extremely narrow point solutions, but they do exactly what they say on the tin, and they're way cheaper than other ways of doing it. Like I love this product Skills Base. It's there, with all due respect, it is the simplest product of all time. It is a survey that gets sent quarterly to your engineers so that they write down the things they're good at. So you have it in like a spreadsheet. Now, I don't think if I were a brand new IT guy at a startup, I would think of that as a product. I would go, "What do you mean you have to survey your people? You don't know what your employees do? The heck's wrong with you? You're an employer? That's just silly." But when you're talking technology, right? I track through skills based 960 distinct technical skills across 400 and some odd people. And you do lose track. I'm sorry. People are learning new stuff every single day. And
It's so
I got to
sick.
know who's
All the
available on
people.
Tuesday to do a Kubernetes refresh on. I mean, like, come on, like there's a lot of
Yeah.
nuance there. So,
Mm.
could I build that product? Absolutely. Could most computer science grads could build this product, right? Like I don't I don't think it's hard, but it's done. It has an absolutely explicit price point that I find fair, and it completely eliminates this problem from my day. I don't ever think about it ever again. When I go into other companies and I say, "Hey, who's good at what?" They go, "I don't know," and I go, "Ah, you're missing $20 an employee a year to be able to use this absolutely simple spreadsheet that happens once a quarter." It's just like it's the no brainerest of things. There are radically more complicated problems,
Yeah.
right? Like I buy way more radically difficult software. NetSuite is the ERP that we use, and it has millions of functions, and there's all sorts of nuance into, why we made that choice. And it's been very effective for us. That's not the same kind of purchase. And so as a startup, you got to figure out which of those kinds, where do you sit on that spectrum from absolutely singular, non-integrated, uh, your partnerships are irrelevant to the buyer, and how clear can your value case study be, to platform that isn't valuable at all until 100 things are integrated with it, and your deployment and implementation is a whole nuanced journey. I think every business is trying to figure out either how to break their big ugly thing down into 100 little cute things that work right, or how to clean up the mess of their 500 little cute things that don't work together in an appropriate way. And they just wish they were one big gnarly platform there, everything was integrated. But like everybody's going some way. So my business certainly helps companies go whichever direction they think is best. And
Hmm.
for some companies, there are some directions that are obviously better than others. But for us, and working with, customers, I think far too often they have not been exposed or don't have an advisor that is in the buyer's seat, and have not internalized the degree to which most of the executive buyers do not care about their silly little product or its benefits at all, and how dense your value messaging needs to be to get my attention in the slightest, and how little friction I am willing to tolerate when interacting with a net new participant. I already have plenty of
Right.
friction from the participants that I already have, and I'm up to here with it. So, uh,
Exactly.
right, like
Exactly.
I am fully, so if you can't prove that this is going to be the easiest thing I've done in a long time, then I think we're going to be in trouble. I also think it's super important, if you're not able to articulate in a way that I can take without you to my peers in the leadership org
Thank
why
you.
this is valuable and how much money we saved, then I'm never going to get budget for it. So you could have the most valuable thing in the history of the world, but you don't get to sell it because I'm the one who has to do the selling with my buddies. So you better hook
Exactly.
me up. You better turn me into salesperson number one.
Hmm.
And I think a lot of sellers miss that spot. They think they're going to be the one who goes to the CEO and pitches it. I'm never letting you go to the CEO. Forget that. Once it's in and deployed and you're having a great time, fine. You can hang with him and talk shop. But I'm the gatekeeper to that stuff. You're not gonna like you gotta make sure it's amazing before that happens.
Miles, I am gonna freaking cut that thing that you just said, and I'm gonna
Yeah.
have it on loop, and
Well,
I'm gonna send it to everyone. This is what I've been trying to say for freaking ages, Miles.
yeah, that's right.
but
No,
but they have to
you
hear
are
it
not the
from a
salesperson.
buyer's.
You are simply enabling an independent third party person who does not get paid. Right? Like, right, think about how low the motivation is for me compared to your motivation. You may have a commission, and maybe you're equity holder. None of those things. There's
But this is
none of
what I
benefit.
mean. Is like when you're. How can someone be enabled when you're not in the room, right? Exactly what you
Well,
just said about skill based, right? So it's just like you were that elevator pitch that you said. I bet everyone's going to be like, okay, hey, what's that?
where's
but
that? I want to go
that
get one.
even that,
Right?
but because that was the no brainer pitch, right?
Yep.
That was a no brainer for you, and it's like, how can that be exactly? That should be the outcome or the goal to get there for your product champion for any kind of and not only like you're right. And this is the thing. You might have a relationship with someone who is the product champion of this huge enterprise, but they might go. And so having those sales enablement ready materials for the handover to happen that allows also for, let's say, if you were to be championing that spreadsheet app, for example, like, it's just like that's something that if you
I
could just say the same, like, you know what I mean? The handover
yeah.
actually happens
I'll
and then it helps you out because then you're like, okay, check, check, check. And it makes you feel good because you're
I
right. You're
promise
not getting
you.
commissioned for
But
that. Like,
no.
the motivation's so
But
different.
I think teams, they overthink this, and they want to work problems that are available to work. So they'll pour themselves into the, you know, uh, slide number 62 in their golden deck. And they're going to send that to me because I'm definitely going to use any of your slides ever. Absolutely not. No. Like, and frankly, like, there are some products and there are some solutions that are complicated enough that they don't get sold this way. They get sold bottoms up by consensus through groups. But most startups, most places have got to be able to a spot where I or somebody like me can articulate why your stuff is valuable in a single sentence, or it's just not going to work. And so I don't get to use your slides. I don't get to use your detailed sales enablement materials. I don't get to go through your long form video with colorful illustrations and customer case studies. One sentence, like, get the sentence done. Right. And if you got to refine that 100 times, you got to test it with a million customers, do it. Cause that's the piece that your actual buyer is going to go use to try and get you a deal.
That's why the above the fold is so important.
That's right. That's right.
Okay. So just to loop on that real quick is let's say if you had 5 vendors you were looking at, for example, and you're helping out for an enterprise customer, what are the top 3 things that you're looking at that you're doing on your own time, right? And because you're doing your own analysis and stuff like that, what are you looking at? Like when you're being Sherlock Holmes, what are you doing?
So just to rewind, because I am almost never Sherlock Holmes. I'm not looking for new stuff and just like
No,
combing
like
through
when
the
you're
goody news
vetting.
starter to be like, ooh, delicious. Maybe I can buy something. Like, nope, I am busy and I'm doing my job. And every once in a while, through the
Yeah.
like deluge of spam and madness, somebody gets, some set of words that capture my attention for 90 seconds. And I try to be like super respectful. I don't want to be the guy who's mean on the phone, or rude over LinkedIn or by email, or doesn't immediately dunk on you on Blue Sky or something like that. But I
Oh my
receive an
God.
enormous amount of inbound,
Yeah.
and so I have to be fairly good at filtering. I have an idea of the places where there are missing capabilities, or I have heard of capabilities in other spots. But remember, like, even a business like mine, hundreds of people, still has an annual budget, has a planning cycle, has a like. So I think another important thing for most startups is to figure out, for the ideal buyer, for the person who most deeply feels the benefit of your product, what is the budget they can independently authorize without checking with anybody? And your product cannot cost more than that, or you will have a hard time, right? If I can't go, that's rad, I gotta try that, smash and put it on my corporate card and apologize for it later, then I don't think
Exactly.
you're gonna get a first step, right?
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
some businesses, that number is real high. Some businesses, that number is zero. And you better figure out how to gate free in a way that is useful so that you can get some adoption and trial. But
Double click
but
on
you
gate
you got to know
free.
that part really well.
Can you spell that out?
It free is $0,
No,
spelled
gate.
FRE.
No. You're, well, I think I want to make sure that people hear this correctly. You're saying that you would like to be able to try the product by yourself, basically a self checkout, that you're able to pay on it by yourself, basically skip through some of the process to adopt it, to then charge it, basically.
Yeah, it has to be valuable enough that I'm willing to get a little bit in trouble, and low enough cost that I can make that decision on my own. And and it's got to be unbinding enough in a cost model that I'm not cleaning up after it, right? Like, I need a round, square, explicit, one time, not recurring. Everybody wants the MRR. You get that when you show me that it's great. And we adopt it as a business. Me trying it is not me adopting it. And I will absolutely delegate that evaluation. You don't get to just expect that I'm going to drive your product around, because like I'm busy and I got employees. So there's going to be somebody that I say, look, you got to figure this thing out, and make them go do it.
What was the best experience that you had online doing that? With who?
Uh, like buying a product, like
Yeah,
consuming a product.
that you were able to do exactly that. What would be an example? What was the gold standard that enabled you to do exactly what you just said?
Sure. What's a great one? Uh, the bar is high, and so the number of people that pass the bar is low. We did we did a project early with a group called Packet Fabric. Packet Fabric is a system that they pre-buy low latency interconnects between the cloud providers, so that instead of like a huge business where you buy your own circuits for this stuff, you could rent a slice of theirs. And the price point for egress and the simplicity of connecting through their fabric is pretty great. So we had plenty of customers. We were interested in accelerating their cloud to cloud movement, right? Like, that's
Mm,
the business, is taking people out of AWS and putting them in GCP, or out of Azure, putting them in GCP, out of data center, putting them in GCP. But and network egress often was an impediment to that. So the prices were right there on the tin. I didn't have to sort of double guess about that. I said, I just want to
you didn't
try it.
have to
They said,
call
sure,
them.
no problem.
Hmm.
No, and the sales rep that we did get in touch with immediately upon outreach was able to say, yeah, you can do the first one free, I don't care. And work together with our network engineering to make that super straightforward. They were helpful in the stand-up process, because it is a technical component. And they were right there at the end of it with this is how many bytes got transferred. This is how much you would pay through retail. This is what you pay through us. This is how much you save today. because even testing it is a thing that would be prohibitively expensive in some environments if you didn't have like
100%. And it's not
right.
fair on their end too if they're able to, so it was kind of fair. It was transparent in a way
Yeah.
and
Now,
straightforward.
in their to their benefit, this is a product where they pay up front for the networking. And so every second that goes by that it's not getting used is just waste. So of course they want to give it away because like it doesn't cost them any different. And I think for most SaaS vendors, like another couple calls on the front end of your system and a couple of user signups is literally a cost you aren't going to be able to compute. It's so small. So like do more to put these products out and time limit it, gate it, hound
Yeah.
the shit out of the customer. Do all that stuff, but
Hmm.
don't put some paywall in front of something that's a brand new vendor that nobody's ever heard of. It's impossible. But I have to be clear. This conversation has gone on so good that I'm now bumping up against my next stuff.
Yes,
So see,
yes,
I'm going to
yes.
cut
No,
you off.
we're
I'm going to
at, yeah, yeah. No, no, we have done an hour. Thank you
I
so
know.
much, Miles, for your time. Wow, we went through a lot. We covered a lot of ground.
That's
Thank
right.
you so much for your time. We'll keep on
Sure.
chatting. Okay, I'll talk to you
Yeah.
later.
I'll look forward to the next one. See you soon.
Sounds good.
All right.
Bye.